This is the CoverPro 10 by 17 foot portable garage, or UTV garage. And the assembly went okay. Myself and my friend helped assemble it. We got most of it done in about 2.5 hours, but at the end of the video, I'll point out the things that we did wrong and wasted a lot of time. I think if I had this video, or I had done this video, if I was doing this canopy a second time someplace else, I think with 2 people, you could probably get this thing completely assembled, anchored to the ground in about 2 hours, assuming you've got a flat surface to start with. So this is it, and let me go over what we did to set it up. All right, I'm finally to the build the car canopy stage. We're gonna build it up here on the pad that's behind me. But one of the things I couldn't find on the internet was this gonna fit in my pickup bed or not, in terms of length. So let's do just a quick measurement for everybody. The most important one, right? The length. Well, 77.5 inches. So just about 78 inches long by, and this one's not as critical for the pickup, but just in case you're curious, it's about 9 inches thick and 18 inches wide. So hope that helps some of you if you buy this 10 foot by 17 foot car canopy from Harbor Freight. I got the pad pretty level with the skid steer, but there wasn't really a lot of room to move. I did bring a rake. It's not level perfectly left to right, but that's okay. You know, really all I want to be able to do is get this thing placed so I can have the UTV out of the rain. And if I have to, I can always rake it around to get it a little more level later. So let's get unboxed. We'll do a quick unboxing here and see what it looks like. It's only $229, so I am not expecting this to last forever, but hopefully it lasts until we've got a permanent garage built. So, the cover, I guess the sides, or the front and back, the door in the back are separate pieces. A lot of 1.5 inch pipe. And a bunch of pieces. So we'll find the manual and we'll start laying out parts. One thing I always want to know when I'm building something is what size are my bolts and nuts, so I'm ready. I couldn't find it in the instructions, but it appears that 9/16 will work. Might be metric in the neighborhood of 9/16, but yeah, it's a little bit loose on 9/16, so I may need to get the metric set out, but 9/16 will work for our purposes today. All right, so we got the roof built, and the next part we're going to do is assemble the legs for both sides. It should be fairly easy to tilt it up and put the legs underneath. One of the things that we had to use was our rubber mallet persuaders. It does actually say to use a rubber mallet in the instructions. So another tool to add when you're going to assemble this is make sure you got your rubber mallet. So let's get the legs built. Okay, we've got the roof assembled. We've got all 8 legs assembled. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lift it up, and my assistant here will go and put the legs on this side, and then we'll do the same on that side. So we'll get this up off the ground at an angle. Hopefully we don't fall off the edge of the cliff. I'm satisfied. All right, well, now we got to put in some rails and some other stuff, so we'll go back to time lapse. Okay, the next part that we need to do is get the back door on. And apparently the only way to do that is now undo the bolts that we did, and one is undone already. Take the frame apart to slide it through the cover. So we got to do a little bit of undoing before we can get this back part on. So we'll get that going here in just a second. So they tried to explain this in the instructions, but I just did not understand. This is how you strap it, and it actually comes to the outside of the frame. So you're wrapping around the post. And I'm sorry, but that just, it said not to insert it in the sleeve, but I just did not understand that. So what you're doing is that it snaps on. You got to take this apart to get the strap through there. Same thing at the top, strap goes underneath, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense. It would make more sense to have that strap over the top, because I would think you're going to start to rip that material across there. But we now have the back on, unfortunately, with a few rips here and there. So, but overall, the back is now on. And to tighten these up, it is actually a 14mm socket. So you got to square this up and then go around and tighten all of these bolts. They are lock nuts, so you don't have to get it super tight. You just got to make sure it's locking securely. But it is a 14mm socket. This time, we're going to do an end the right way from the beginning. The first thing you ought to do when you lay out the door is we'll lay it out flat, but put the ratchets on the ties so you don't accidentally pull them through and waste time trying to feed this strap back through. So put a ratchet on each one of the ends before you start the hanging process. Okay, now this time, the manual actually does say to insert the poles into the bottom. This is the top cover, and there's a row of poles that will connect to that, and they go through this in the bottom. So we just need to figure out which way this is oriented, and then we'll put the poles in the bottom of one part, throw ropes over the top, and in theory, just pull this like a tent cover over the top to make a tent. So hopefully that works. here's an edge. So this is where a pole slides in. So this way, it would be oriented this way, right? Because this is a bottom edge. This goes toward the pole. We gotta just get this to the outside stacked up. This is an edge, right? So see this edge right here that I'm on? This is the one we'll pull over the top. And so let that bottom part go down. Because what this will do is this is going to go up and over. And this part down here is going to stay down here and get bars in it. So that's how that's going to work.
What are these?
I don't know yet. Time to check the manual. Well, we put in one solid day of assembly, and a solid day for us was probably about 2.5 to 3 hours, and we lost a ton of time trying to put on the end panels, and I'll go over that one more time just so you don't waste your time on it. The last part I got to do is assemble the bars along the bottom that are in place, but I need to put the brackets on and tighten it up. And we actually went through our first rainstorm with the canopy top being loose. So normally when it would be tight, you know, you won't catch water down in this gully part, and it was loose. We had a little bit of rain. Obviously the leaves collected, but not too much water. I think we're okay, but you've got to have these bars in along the bottom, and you got to tighten them up so that the canopy, you know, is taut from the top to the bottom, so the water rolls over this rail. And unfortunately I've got a little bit of a dip here. You can kind of see that little bit of a dip. So today we're going to finish up putting in these bottom brackets on this side, and then I can tighten it up and we'll be able to call one project done. Okay, so I now have everything bolted together. The rails here are a little more than finger tight. They're lock nut washers, so you can't tighten them by hand to get them quote unquote finger tight, but they're a little snug. So now they'll, you know, stick a little bit. So now the key part is we've got to get this taut so that we don't have gullies in the roof. And if I zoom in here, you'll be able to see that the seam is just a little bit off. I've got to pull the cover just a little bit so that the seam is right on the bar. So it's a little bit to this side, hard to tell on video. So I'll adjust that, and then we'll start to try and tighten this up. So now you can see I have the stripe right on top of that bar, maybe a little bit more to go, but it's basically right on top of the stripe the entire way. So now we can work on tightening things up. So now I have the canopy perfectly even. All the brackets are in place. They're all snug. Clearly, those bars really won't clamp it tight enough to hold it in place completely. There are ratchet straps that we put in at the corners to put more tension on it, but that's only at the four corners and not in the middle. So I'm going to start at the back end, tighten up both sides, and just kind of work my way forward. All right, I already tightened the back ones to the point it's squeezing the pipe, the center pipe, and it doesn't grab it that tight. So the only thing that really makes this tight are the ratchet straps in the corner. So I'm gonna go around making it as even as I can and tighten up the bolts, but apparently they don't really grab onto the posts that strongly. Well, I stand corrected. The center ones, because there's nuts on both ends, do clamp it tight enough to hold it in place. So I've got it perfectly centered. I'll tighten up both of these sides, and then we'll tighten up this side to make sure it's nice and tight in the middle. And it's really the straps at the two ends holding it tight, which should be okay that bar is a little loose, so we should be all right. Now it's pretty tight. I don't think we'll get water in here, and we'll just tighten up these ratchets, and I think we'll be done. Success! I just want to go over one more time on how these end panels go on. The front and the back go on the same way. The cover just wraps around the pole. You don't slide it into the sleeve where the nylon cord is. It just goes right around the post. So you can see here, I can just unwrap it if I had to. So it just wraps around the post. The instructions were very misleading to me. It was very difficult to understand. So you have to disconnect one side to get that nylon web underneath the pole, but it does not. The white pole does not go inside the end fabric. The fabric just wraps around. And this fabric is a little heavier than the blue tarp stuff, but it's basically the same as the blue tarp stuff. But you can see now that I've tightened it, I think the rain, should skirt right off without pooling. So again, I think the key part is trying to understand their instructions and make sure that you just wrap this cover around the pole. This is the front door. And that's it. The garage is 10 foot by 17 feet deep, and it advertises a 7-foot door. But I can tell you, I am not 7 feet tall. So in reality, I think, can the top of this be pushed up to 7 feet or higher? Absolutely. But realistically, when you've rolled it up, I'm 6'2", so realistically, you're talking about a 6-foot doorway, more likely. I may actually roll this up much tighter and put it up higher, because I really don't need to close the door. And actually right now I've got the legs kicked out a little bit wider than normal to give me a little more room for maneuvering. So just be aware that it is 10 feet wide, 17 feet deep, and the door is probably realistically 5'8". One project officially finished. Our car canopy for the UTV is completed, so I can finally check one thing off my list. But again, this is only temporary storage. Eventually, this will be taken down. So I guess I still didn't complete a project. Oh well. Again, thanks for watching. I hope the instructions help. Have a great day.